Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave Podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and here we go. Batman stuck at the bottom of an elevator shaft, the elevator coming down towards him. However, will he get out? And joining me to discuss that as we head off into the mountains looking for Radium is the editor-creator of Gotham City 14 Miles, Mr. Jim Beard. Hey, Jim.
Hey, smash him. He's not really Batman. He's okay, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, as you know, I realize he's the first Batman, we got to cut him some slack here.
He's the first on-screen Batman. You know?
Yes.
As much as and we all love Adam, and Adam is our Batman.
Yeah.
You got to give it. It's kind of like, it's funny because now I'm thinking about this Doctor Who. I don't know. Have you ever watched an episode of Doctor Who?
I have both, classic Doctor Who and modern Doctor Who. Yeah.
Okay, because everybody talks about their Doctor because now we're up to 13 actors who've played the role. 14
wow.
if you count John Hurd or Hurt as the War Doctor.
The War Doctor.
Right.
Yeah, you got to count him.
But you got I say you got to count him. It's
wait a minute. Is that counting Peter Cushing?
It's not counting Peter Cushing because that is an alternate Doctor.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they haven't figured out a way to work that in.
You would think they would at this point, the way everybody's working in, all sorts of variations. We just had the Crisis on Infinite Earths and all that.
Yeah.
They managed to work in that 66 Batman is part of the whole Arrowverse.
Yeah. Wait, Doctor Who is all about time travel and alternate dimensions and realities and whatever, all that stuff, and they can't figure out a way to fit Peter Cushing into that.
Right.
I'm not good with that.
Right.
Anyways, Batman.
Well, Batman. Well, but just getting to my point, if you have ever watched any of the William Hartnell, the very first Doctor stories, the Doctor is not the Doctor we know. He's this curmudgeon. He's angry all the time. He argues constantly. In the very first season, he's often getting his companions in danger because he's just more scientifically curious than anything else. He's not humanity's savior or what have you, the way he is now and such. He's not quirky in the sort of sense that kids can relate to as much, but he is the Doctor because that was the template that all the others would look at it to a certain extent and then shape their character. And I wonder, because when we talk about this, 66 Batman came about because what were they doing? They were watching the serials, the two serials, at Hugh Hefner's place and airing them on TV, and it got people all into it. And then ABC said, we want Batman. And what does Dozier do? He emulates the whole cliffhanger aspect.
Yeah. This 1943 serial is still not copying the comics from 1943. No. Yes, the comics were for kids then. I totally get that. But this serial is so dumbed down. My thought is that there was nobody really involved had any sort of confidence in it or the material. We need a serial. We need, more product. We need filler. We need a programmer, whatever. And we got the rights to this, this comic book thing. And, as long as we hit these points, the guy's name is Bruce Wayne. He dresses up in a costume. He's Batman. And he has a sidekick named Robin. Then we're good. That's good enough.
That's good enough.
Because I could pull out a 1942 story probably when they were writing the scripts for this and show like there that there was a lot more intelligence going on in the comics at that time. But this is good enough, They're fulfilling their contract with National, which would have been DC at that time, and that's good enough.
Right. So let's get into it here.
Daka has captured mine owner Colton, and his men make plans to rob the radium mine. But Batman and Robin drop in on the party.
Let's talk about episode 8, Lured by Radium, which, just to let you know, just before the show started, I had to ask Jim what the title was because I forgot to write it down. Probably one of the most uninteresting titles of the ones they've done so far, I think.
Well, I have an alternate title for it. I call it Blinded with Science. Lured by Radium, or She Blinded Me with Science. Right? It's saying the same thing, right?
Yeah, true, absolutely. I gotta say, I again, cards on the table. This is another fun episode because we're gonna go up to the mine where Colton's radium ore is located. And
now, hang on a second. You said it wasn't that exciting of a title, but back then it would have been a very exciting title.
True.
Because radium was a very weird, exciting, mysterious, spooky, dangerous, thing.
Right.
And at that time, and who knows? That might have even been some kid's first exposure to that word and to what.
That ought to finish him. If that doesn't, this will.
Radium is. You really don't know. So yeah, lured by radium. Oh no, I think that sounds really, 1943 cool.
Yeah. Okay, I will give you that for 1943.
Good.
And you're right, because that's part of what we do here is you got to take it in the context of then and not so much, criticizing it with the context of now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, all right, we get the recap as we discussed in the last episode. Batman and Robin were taking out or trying to take out some of Daka's men, picking up equipment so that they could go off to the mine and such when Batman got knocked into the elevator shaft with the elevator coming down towards him. As we open, Robin revives and stops the elevator just in time.
Bruce, are you all right?
He races downstairs to the bottom of the shaft to check on Bruce. Again,
right, not on Batman.
Yep.
But yeah, he yells, Bruce,
Yes.
Are you all right?
Yep.
And not even thinking about whether there might be still one of those crooks, hanging around.
Exactly.
Wondering, why is Robin calling Batman Bruce?
You all right, Batman?
Yeah. That really was a close call. You did some fast thinking.
If those bells ring, we better get out of here. We don't want the police to find us in these outfits.
Yeah.
And I love this. I made a note because they talk about it was like a close call. And then I wrote, well, why don't you learn to fight then? And you will stop having these close calls. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop harping about it.
Okay.
We all know it has to happen. It has to happen. It has to be this way.
It has to be this way. And Jim, there's still like 6 more episodes to go, 7 episodes. So, they run off because then alarms start going off in the place and such. So before the police are, which again, I'm like thinking, why do you have to necessarily run off like that? You're government agents, but all right, off they go.
But we've figured this out that nobody knows that they're government agents.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
And they don't seem to carry any credentials,
right.
Government credentials, which might even actually help things if they did, and they wouldn't have to, operate like this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We cut to a scene with Linda. She's concerned because she wants to find Colton. But Bruce tries to dissuade her, and I did like this. This, I think, played out nicely like it would in the comics, in that Playboy way of, I'm sure everything's all right and yada, yada.
It did. Totally did.
Yeah. But she's determined to find him. So Bruce gives in. And again, and one of the things that annoys the hell out of Jim, too, he's like, okay, but we'll leave the next day.
Yeah, right. Right. It's either... In this serial, it's either things are of the utmost urgency and you leap right into things, or it's the exact opposite. When things should be of urgency and you just sort of go, yeah, we'll go down there tonight or we'll leave tomorrow.
Yep. Now, did you notice? And I don't normally notice this, but when I'm watching, I don't call this out, but for some reason, I was struck by how striking Linda looked in this scene. I thought she was very beautiful.
Oh, well, now you've shamed me. Yeah, I will go back and take a look at that. I don't know. I think it's like I'm focusing on so many other things that I'm not, focusing on that I haven't yet. She's very pretty.
She is.
I'll give her that. But like right now, in my mind's eye, I can't conjure up an image of the actress.
I don't sit there and go, oh, pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl. Like, I don't do that. But for some reason in this particular scene, as they were talking and stuff, maybe it was also the anger she had, the determination, but all of it, I was like, wow, she's a very striking woman.
Huh. Well, she's no Evelyn Ankers, that's for sure. Or who is? Or who was?
Who was?
Yeah. Or Valerie Hobson. I'm trying to think of actresses from this era.
From this era, yeah.
I just watched a Valerie Hobson movie the other day and remembered how much in admiration I am of Valerie Hobson.
Okay.
Well,
I'm done. Go on.
I know we could turn this into our Women of the 40s appreciation podcast.
Yeah. Oh well. You don't need another idea for a podcast, John S. Drew.
I've got my long sheet of paper here. We just added the other day. I forget what show it is that people said I should be doing a podcast on, and I said, all right, well, let me write that one down.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And there's still the Hostess comic ads podcast I want to get done someday.
We still need to do the 70s DC superhero specials.
Oh, well, no, we're gonna, I know. And the thing is, I've got that one figured out how I want to do it. It's just a matter of nailing down the time, because I know that's like something that a lot of people have said, I want in. And it's like, well, I want to include you all. How do I do that in a way that's fair to everybody and still have something cohesive? Right. And I think I've got it, but it's just a matter of coordinating with everybody how to do that. So
well, and to tie it back into Batman 1943, those specials actually make Batman 1943 look pretty good at some points.
That's true. That's true. Yep. Now we cut to Colton continuing to refuse to work with Daka, so Daka has turned.
You mean my hero, Colton?
Your hero, Colton. Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps, Mr. Colton, you'd like to see Mr. Warren again to remind you of what happens to anyone who refuses to obey me.
No thanks.
Are you willing to show us to your mine?
Not by a long shot.
Are you not aware that after you become a zombie, you will be forced to guide us there?
That's what you think.
So sorry. Fletcher.
Yes, the most interesting man in the world is Colton in this.
Yes, he is. In this world, yeah.
So he orders Colton to go through the process of being turned into a zombie. Now, I thought this was interesting. He's in the chair. He's got the weird tube thing, head thing, gear on his head and everything. The pain proves to be too much for Colton as he goes through the process. He gives in before the process can be completed and gives Daka the information.
All right, then I'm really totally confused at this point.
Right.
Because I made a note about this.
Now you're going to show us where your mind is?
Yes, I'll do anything, only don't start that horrible pain again.
That is more sensible. Fletcher. Get whatever men and equipment you need and get up there as soon as you can.
Maybe I was zoning out or something. I thought they were torturing him to get the information. And then I made a note to say this machine used for pain, because we hadn't seen that before, that It was the zombifying machine.
Exactly. That's why I just assumed he was turning him into a zombie.
So,
because in the last episode, he showed him Linda's uncle.
Yeah, right. But if you watch the scene, it seems more to me like they're using it to torture him to get the information because he's in great pain, and then he, supposedly gives in.
Right.
So, okay, because I wouldn't see where Daka would care about how much pain he's in if it's like continue with the zombie process.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know. That's kind of something I'd have to go back and watch to see if that's really was the intention, because I didn't get it that way. I got it as they were using the chair device machine to torture, which is interesting because we haven't seen it used like that before this moment.
Right. And because of it now, also that means Dalton is a viable player in this, as we'll see as the episode continues.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the next day, Daka's men with Colton in the back of the car, and they keep him hidden as they pull up to the Native American trading post because the car has overheated.
Yeah. And I'm
calling it the Native American Trading Post. That's not what it says on the sign.
No, I wrote a note about this, and to quote the guy when they pull up, "Hey, Sitting Bull."
Yes.
Well, I jumped because for some reason, again, I think I'm zoning out when I watch this. I thought that was Bruce at first. And I'm like, oh my goodness! Like, wow, what a difference, to Adam West,
right,
and his treatment of Native Americans.
I'll never understand why Chief Screaming Chicken decided to put in with Egghead.
He told me once that he worked for a while as a bottle washer. He had an argument with the boss who told him to go back to his own country.
But this is his country.
Exactly. Any wonder why Chief Screaming Chicken is dissatisfied?
Then I realized, no, it's the bad guy.
Yes.
But you know what? In 1943, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a good guy say to an Indian, "Hey, Sitting Bull."
Sure.
Yeah, but and then we get a fairly stereotypical Indian presentation.
Hey, Sitting Bull, you got any water?
Oh, plenty. Bucket, water.
It could be argued that by 1966, the presentation hadn't improved at all.
No, absolutely.
When you had Edward Everett Horton, playing Chief, what is it, Screaming Chicken?
Screaming Chicken.
Screaming Chicken. I don't remember if we got the name of this guy in the 1943 serial, but it had to have been better than Chief Screaming Chicken. But, it's funny. You get to 66 and you still have these not so hot presentations of Native Americans, Indians. But then you have Batman's attitude. Batman is Adam West. His attitude is really, an improvement as far as he knows the customs. He's treating them with respect and all of that, where 1943, it's like, it's just some stupid Indian at the side of the road, with his, whatever is going on there. And we're just going to do the typical stuff with him.
Well, by 66, it's like, okay, the stereotypes are still enforced, or they're in force. I shouldn't say enforced, but in force, in play. But here's Batman at least acknowledging they're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And in that sense, it is an advancement, and I do like that, and I do try to hold that up when people criticize, that Egghead episode. In fact, one station even eliminated that episode from the run, that, yeah. which is totally wrong. You have to watch it. You have to understand that those stereotypes were still in play at that point in force, but that they make some advancement by the attitude of the hero, toward the character. But here we are in 1943. Hey, Sitting Bull.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Aren't they all called Sitting Bull?
I guess so. Yeah. Well, they all look the same. They're all, one's as good as or bad as another, right?
Yeah,
they're all Sitting Bull.
Jeez.
Yeah, really.
But they do, head up to Colton's mine. And I did like this whole thing, the way it's situated, because the mine is up towards the top of a hill. And at the bottom of the hill, which the trading post is like kind of the in-between point as you're coming down the hill, at the bottom of the hill is Colton's home.
Right.
I liked all that because it then sets up when Bruce and them arrive. They head straight to the mine, though.
Wait, more evidence that Gotham City is not on the East Coast.
Because of the mining?
Because there's an Indian out in the countryside.
In the countryside.
Do you see what I mean?
But by 43, I'm just thinking, I mean, now you might see a Native American on the roadside with a shop today, like in Connecticut or something. Because we have Foxwood.
Yeah, but I know this is obviously they didn't. And there was a past chapter that we talked about this too, where it's very clear that Gotham City is just L.A.
Right.
Or whatever, and it's a quick drive out into the desert, wastelands, mines, or whatever, and of course out there in the desert wastelands, there's just there's Indians hanging around. Yeah, this is obviously not an analog to New York City.
Right. I did like this though. We get to the mine, and Colton is able to trick two of the men. So that he's able to escape, and he runs further into the mine.
Yes.
Because it's his mine. He knows where he's going.
Yeah. Again, I want to call out Colton's intelligent, resourceful, a man of action, and, decisiveness. And, he's the hero of this production so far.
Oh, okay, here you go. I did make note of it. I don't know why. Oh, because here's where we learn his name. The Native American's name is Steve.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
The character's name is Steve?
It's Steve. I forget what how it came up in conversation, because Bruce pulls up, Alfred's driving, and Linda, and they've got themselves a trailer home with them and everything. It's really cool.
This is the place that Ken told us about, the Indian place. I say, fella, you're Steve, aren't you?
Me, Steve. What you want?
I'm looking for a friend of mine. His name is Ken Colton.
Me no Colton. Me no see Colton.
Is this the right road to Mr. Colton's mine?
He got no mine. Got cabin only. You buy, pretty vase?
It's carved out of the same rock Ken showed us a sample of at your apartment.
Rock come from cave in mountain near Colton cabin.
You mean the cabin is near the cave?
Cabin on right road, cave in mountain left road.
That's clear as mud.
Well, we'll try and find it. Here, keep the change.
No, Indian don't take gift. Price $1, $3, $2, $5.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the information. Go ahead, Alfred.
But I have the note here. I didn't do it in a joking manner. Because Steve, my note is specifically, it says here, Steve the Native American is very confusing as he explains to Bruce that there is no mine but a cavern. I think he's like trying to say there's no uranium up there, that Colton's probably a little crazy for thinking that. Maybe that's what it is. But because as we mentioned in the last episode, it's been a while since we watched them. We'd planned to do these recordings earlier, and we always do them in blocks of 2. So...
Right.
But yeah, Steve, and that's not a joke. I'm not being funny. I know that, because if I did, I would have put a note that it's a joke or something next to it.
Yeah, it could be worse. It could have been Jimmy or or Billy or whatever, something.
Right. So with that, they drive to the fork. They see Colton's home at the bottom. Decide to go check there, and I got to say, we've brought this up before, but it's really bad here. Bruce's New England accent is really strong as they enter the house, and he's like,
Ken! Hey, Ken!
I guess he isn't here.
Oh, I'm sorry, fellas. I guess my woman's intuition failed me this time. Guess we might as well go back to town.
Well, as long as we're here, I'm going to have a look at that cave the Indian told us about.
Oh, Bruce, I wish you wouldn't.
Now, don't worry, Linda. You know I wouldn't go there if I thought it was dangerous. I'll send Alfred over to keep you company while we're gone. Come on, Dick.
Be careful.
Alfred, take the lunch basket into Miss Page. We're going to have a look around.
Yes, sir.
Ken. I'm like, oh my God.
I don't know if I brought this up before, but we, in New England or whatever, sometimes those accents are also called mid-Atlantic.
Okay. No.
And the idea is that it's a cross between a United States, an American accent, and a British accent. And that's, I guess, more or less is what you call the New England. Yeah, but yes. Yeah. So that's funny. It's like this New England guy is in California. He's living in California.
Right. So, of course, he's not there. Bruce and Dick decide to head up to the cavern to check it out there while Linda and Alfred set up their lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it. Sure. Got to have lunch.
Yep. At the mine, 2 of the men are sent back to the cabin to see if Colton went back down there. So as Bruce and Dick are approaching, they see Daka's men's car, and they know, I guess it's not Colton's and such. So this is it. We're going to make the change. And here I get it. They didn't become Batman and Robin right away because Linda's there and stuff, and they don't want to reveal their identities. They got to go as Bruce and Dick. This makes sense. But now it's like, all right, there's a situation. We're Batman and Robin.
Right. Yes.
There's
some science to this, and I'm just not sure exactly what it is, but I think you're on the trail of it. You're using your detective skills to figure out exactly what the screenwriters, what their criteria was for Batman and Robin as opposed to Bruce and Dick.
Yep. I loved this. Then we cut back to the cabin where Colton scares the heck out of Linda and Alfred by coming up from the floor. He's got, basically.
I loved it.
I know he can get up to his to the mine just by going through a shaft in the house, and it's like all the way up there. So that's what he did, and he's got this plan to trap the men in the mine by rigging it with dynamite.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. No compunction against like killing these guys or anything. Like, no, they're trying to take from me. This is the way.
Yep. Exactly. And so Alfred's like, well, I got to go warn, Master Bruce and Dick. So off he goes, but he's caught by the 2 men that were sent down to go check out the cabin.
Right.
I love all this because it actually all plays out as the characters are moving about in there. And I didn't see all of it coming necessarily. So I liked this.
Yeah. Maybe it takes just getting out of the city, and, and getting out of the rut, and, going out onto the back lot and having some fun with them, running around in a mine or something that or they realize, oh my goodness, we're into chapter 8. We better kick this thing into gear now. Yeah.
But here's the thing. This is where it all gets a little wonky because.
Now it's getting wonky.
Now it's getting wonky. No, because it was fun. It was all good and everything. But it's like, oh, come on now, really? Because what happens is Batman and Robin find the rest of Daka's men. They get into this fight.
Look out, the Batman!
Meanwhile, Colton has set up the explosives in the passage beneath his cabin. He goes and he hears the sounds of the fight, though, at the end of the corridor or whatever it is.
Batman! Over here.
And he beckons Batman and Robin to follow him because they're close to that part of it there. They go running off with him, but of course, Daka's men go following them. So
I think what you're trying to say is it's all fun and games until someone tries to blow up a mine.
Exactly.
Look out, look out!
The 2 other men who were sent to go check out the cabin arrive there. They see Linda going down into the passage, so they follow her. So now you've got men on both sides of this cavern here that is rigged with explosives. The fight is continuing. One of the men fall on the plunger. As you say, it's all well and good until we rig the mine to explode. So the explosive go off as we come to the end of this. And it's like, again, like the elevator one, I like this one because it's not just Batman's in danger or Robin's. Everybody is, Colton, Batman, Robin, Linda. They're all down there in the
literally everybody. Yeah, like the entire cast except for Daka himself is down, and in a prime spot to be blown to bits.
Right.
It's fun. It's very fun.
I really enjoyed these past 2 episodes. I really enjoyed kibitzing about like, yeah, some of the things that are irritating.
A plunger!
These ones moved. They were fun. They're probably the strongest out of the 8 we've done so far.
Yeah. Again, I have to wonder if this is typical for serials that once you get halfway that they start to ramp things up.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a formula at that time, because I think we're seeing the phantom of the formula. We're seeing, it in this that the guys who wrote these things had this formula and then plugged in the particular things. And this is what I'm saying as far as Batman goes. This is all very typical serial stuff dressed up as Batman.
Right. But a lot of fun, just the same.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it is. You know what? If I was a kid back in 1943, I'd probably just been sitting there eating this stuff up.
Yeah,
I know I would, because I'm eating this kind of stuff up now. I love this era. Who knows if you were reading the comic from, let's say you came in around 1940, 1941, you had a couple of years of reading Batman, and then all of a sudden he's going to be in, live jumping around on the screen, you probably would have been beside yourself.
True.
Like, oh, I gotta see that one.
It's got me thinking here, though, because we do this in blocks of 2, and I would really I feel like right now I wish we were recording the next 2 right now, but we're going to have to wait a bit because, of our scheduling and such, and because I haven't watched them yet. But then it also got me thinking, like, how these serials are perfect for our binge watching era that we're in, where we have to have everything at once.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think you're absolutely correct.
Maybe even I'll go do that now when we're done here. I'll just go outside and watch the next couple of episodes, because this was fun. This was whatever else. Okay, our issues with Batman and the way they're handling him as a character. This was still a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm glad you're here to talk about it.
I am too.
So as we wrap up things here, Jim, let's talk a little bit about Comic Chaos. How are things going with you and Fred Lefevre over at the podcast?
Oh, great. We're having such a good time. And I like to joke, it's the comic book podcast that no one's listening to. But, he and I talk about that occasionally, and we're having a good time. We knew that it wasn't going to light the world on fire. It'd be nice to have, some more hits. What would really be nice is to get more commentary from people. We have the same situation, except to a greater degree, as here, that we'd like to get more comments. But you do get comments, at least on your podcast. But the Comic Chaos podcast has sort of morphed into much, much more than comic books. We've really been talking a lot about TV and movies, and I think it's just because how much comic books have seeped into the greater world of film.
Yeah.
That we go down that road. Although when something significant happens in comics, we definitely talk about it. Just recently with the revealing of Superman's secret identity in the comics, we've talked about that. We talked quite a lot about the book called Second Coming, from Ahoy Comics, the one about where Jesus comes back to Earth and he has a roommate who's a superhero analog to Superman. We talked about that a lot. So that's definitely there. But I think that it's our ages that really make the show a bit more than just your average, comic book or pop culture show. Fred's over 60 and I'm in my mid 50s. So and he's, he, as he loves to say, he hasn't read comic books since he was a kid, which isn't true, but he's not like a comic book reader like me, of course. But I think we really bring some unique perspective to things. And like I said, we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed your recent look, the weekly look at The Mandalorian that you did.
Yeah. Thank God for the Mandalorian, because that was a lot of fodder for us. Because we were both really into the show, although we didn't both like every single aspect of it.
Right.
Neither one of us are quote unquote baby Yoda fans. Him less so than me, but that was really nice that he got into it, and he's not the Star Wars fan like I am,
right?
That he got into it. So I hope more people give it a listen, and we're keeping them short. We realize that people don't have a lot of time. You get really long podcasts like like this one, but we're trying to keep them roughly about 30 minutes.
Yes.
That you could get one in a drive or whatever. You're at home and you just want a short one. You don't want a huge investment of time. We're trying to keep them short and punchy and lively.
Yes. Yep. And I got to also give a shout out to Fred for when he brought up the Phantom comic strip, which I did not realize is still a continuing feature in newspapers. Now I got to go look for it.
Yeah, I knew that it was, but I obviously haven't been reading it, but I did. I love that one when we talked about that, and I was just so enthused that he was so into it,
Yes.
and had been following it and knew all about it. That was really wonderful. And then around that same time, I rewatched the Phantom movie with Billy Zane and remembered how much I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, great movie.
That I would love to do a podcast about that movie. just that movie. Well, just one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, well, that's all you need. It's just, a one and done talking about it. Yeah.
Let me throw this out there. That movie would not have happened if there weren't the Batman movies. And it's a definite 1940s serial cliffhanger vibe. There's a lot of connective tissue there with Batman, and I think that two Batman fans talking about that movie would be very valid. So keep that in mind, and it would just be one single, episode. But yeah, I really love that movie, except for Treat Williams.
Well, you can find that, folks, on all your major platforms there: iTunes, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, if I remember correctly. Correct?
Yeah, definitely. That's really where it started, is the iHeartRadio podcast network. But yeah, you can get it all over the place now, and we're on Twitter. It's Comic Chaos Pod. At Comic Chaos Pod, and we are on Facebook too, Comic Chaos Podcast. And we live up to that name because we really truly are all over the map, at any given, episode. And that's what I really love about it. You never really know what we're going to talk about.
Right. Well, continued, because I look forward to it every week popping up in my feed. So
thank you.
Yeah. So, folks, that's going to do it then for this episode of the Batcave Podcast. Tune in next time. We're back. It might be an episode dealing with the comic books. I'm not entirely sure yet. The 66 comics. It might be another look at Electro Woman and Dyna Girl. We're halfway through that. There's only 8 episodes, so that won't be much longer for that there. Or what, any other of the multitude of things we're talking about that have spun off.
I think you should rename the Batcave Chaos.
There you go, because you just never know what's going to happen there.
Or just Bat Chaos.
Bat Chaos.
Podcast.
Or it won't be, because this is the last of this block, but very soon Jim and I will also be back with episode 9. The continuing adventures of our hero Colton, and Batman and Robin are along for the ride.
Yeah, it just happened to have Batman and Robin in it too.
There you go. So until then, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Jim, citizens, take care, everybody.
See ya.
This tough-looking character calls himself Chuck White. Is he friend or foe? Daka would like to know the answer to that question. Who is Chuck White pointing that gun at? And why is he being attacked? Don't fail to see The Sign of the Sphinx, Chapter 9 of Batman, at this theater next week.